My twin brother stole my fiancée, thinking I was weak. So I hired his worst nightmare, to make her my lover and ruin his life. Just karma. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button so you don't miss news stories. I stood in the rain outside the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse I paid for, watching my own face laugh back at me. But it wasn't me. It was Elias, my identical twin brother. He was wearing my bespoke Italian suit, drinking my 30-year-old Japanese whiskey, and his arm was draped around the woman who, until 2 hours ago, I thought was the love of my life. Most twins share a bond. Elias and I shared a curse. He didn't just want to be me, he wanted to replace me. And as I watched him lean in to kiss Elena, whispering the same lies he'd used to dismantle my life for the last decade, I didn't feel sadness. I didn't feel the urge to scream. I felt a cold, crystalline clarity. Elias thought he had finally won. He thought he'd taken the last thing I had left. What he didn't realize was that when you strip a man of everything, you don't just leave him with nothing. You leave him with nothing to lose. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a damp business card I'd been holding for 3 years. It didn't have a company name. Just a logo of a silver scale tipped to one side and a single name, Sloan Vance. The woman who had once turned a Silicon Valley titan into a homeless man in 48 hours. The woman my brother feared more than God. It was time to invite the devil to dinner. To understand why I was standing in the rain, you have to understand the twin tax. Since we were kids, Elias was the shadow. I was the one who studied. He was the one who stole my homework. I was the one who built the software company from a garage. He was the one who consulted, by draining the corporate account for marketing in Ibiza. My parents always said, "Leo, he's your blood. He's just lost. Help him." So I did. For 30 years, I was his safety net. I got him out of debt, I covered his scandals, and I ignored the way he looked at my life, not with pride, but with hunger. 3 months ago, I met Elena. She was a neurosurgeon, brilliant, sharp, and seemingly immune to the bad boy charm Elias usually used to snag my flings. For the first time, I felt safe. I was going to propose tonight. I had the ring, a vintage sapphire that cost more than a Porsche. But when I came home early to surprise her, I found the door to our bedroom ajar. I heard her laughing. "You're so much more intense than you usually are," she whispered. "I've been holding back," a voice replied. My voice. I watched through the crack. Elias was wearing my watch. He'd even mimicked the slight limp I have in my left leg from an old hiking accident. He wasn't just sleeping with her, he was performing as me. And Elena? She didn't know. Or maybe, deep down, she liked the intense version better. I didn't interrupt. I walked out, went to the office, and found that he'd already authorized a wire transfer of $4 million to an offshore account using a deepfake voice recording of my authorization. He wasn't just taking my girl, he was liquidating my life. Sloan Vance's office wasn't in a skyscraper. It was in the basement of an old library in the city. The air smelled of old paper and expensive cigarettes. She didn't look like a fixer. She looked like a high-fashion assassin. Her hair was a platinum blonde bob, her suit was charcoal gray, and her eyes were the color of a frozen lake. She didn't look up when I sat down. "Leo Thorne," she said, her voice like velvet over gravel. "CEO of Thorne Dynamics. Current net worth, dropping by $10,000 every minute your brother stays in your penthouse. Why are you here?" "I want to kill him," I said. Sloan finally looked up. She leaned back, a small, dangerous smile playing on her lips. "I don't do wet work, Leo. It's messy and the ROI is terrible. I don't mean his heart," I clarified. "I want to kill his soul. I want him to watch as everything he thinks he stole from me turns into ash. I want him to realize that the only reason he ever existed was because I allowed it." Sloan tapped a silver pen against her chin. "Your brother Elias tried to scam one of my clients 2 years ago. A venture capitalist firm. I spent a month dismantling his crypto fund. He owes me $3 million in legal fees he never paid. He thinks I've forgotten. He's terrified of you, I said. He mentions your name when he has nightmares. Good, she said, standing up. Fear is a great seasoning for a meal. So, what's the play? You want me to sue him? No, I said, leaning forward. Elias loves a challenge. He loves taking things that belong to me. I want to introduce you as my new partner. My everything. I want to make you the most irresistible prize he's ever seen. I want him to try to steal you. Sloane's eyebrows arched. You want me to be the honey in a trap? You're not honey, Sloan, I said. You're the razor blade hidden in the apple. She laughed. It was a cold, melodic sound. My fee is a flat $500,000 for the performance, plus any damages I inflict on his assets. And Leo? Yes? If you fall for me during this, it'll cost you an extra $1 million. I don't do happily ever after for free. Deal, I said. We spent the next 2 weeks in a suite at the Waldorf. It wasn't about sex, it was about optics. If we were going to fool a narcissist like Elias, we had to be flawless. He's a mirror, I explained to Sloan as we watched clips of Elias's past conquests. He watches what you like and becomes it. If you're a philanthropist, he's suddenly saving the rainforest. If you're a snob, he's a wine connoisseur. So I need to be something he can't mirror, Sloan said, filing her nails. I need to be the wall he crashes into. Exactly. He thinks he's a predator. He needs to think you're the apex predator. We practiced our history. We created a fake paper trail of a secret merger. We took photos at 3 a.m. in dark corners of elite clubs, looking like power-hungry conspirators. But something happened during those 2 weeks. One night, over a bottle of cheap scotch, the only thing Sloan actually liked, she asked me, "Why don't you just call the police, Leo? The wire fraud alone would put him away for 20 years. Because he'd come out," I said. "And he'd still be my brother. My parents would still make me feel guilty. To truly be free of him, I need him to be socially and financially dead. I need the family to see him for the monster he is." Sloan looked at me, her icy gaze softening for just a fraction of a second. "You're a very dangerous man, Leo Thorne. Most people just get angry. You get surgical. I learned from the best," I said, looking her in the eye. The tension in the room shifted. It wasn't part of the script. My heart hammered. She didn't look away. For a moment, the fake relationship felt more real than anything I'd ever had with Elena. Sloan broke the gaze first. "Get some sleep, Leo. Tomorrow is the gala. It's time to let the wolf into the fold." The Thorne Dynamics Anniversary Gala was the event of the season. 500 of the city's most influential people gathered in a ballroom that smelled of lilies and desperation. I stood at the entrance, adjusting my cufflinks. Inside that room was a man wearing my name. Elias had spent the last 2 weeks fully integrating into my life. He was living in my penthouse, signing my memos, and according to the tabloids, he and Elena were the IT couple of the year. He had told the board of directors that I, the real Leo, was taking a mental health sabbatical due to burnout. "Breathe, Leo," Sloan whispered, sliding her arm through mine. She was a vision of lethal elegance. She wore a dress made of midnight blue silk that looked like liquid shadow. Around her neck was a choker of black diamonds. She wasn't playing a girlfriend, she was playing a queen who had just bought a kingdom. "I'm fine," I said, though my pulse was a drumbeat in my ears. Just ready to see the look on his face. "Don't look for the shock," Sloan cautioned. "Look for the greed. That's where he's vulnerable." We walked in. The room went silent for a heartbeat before the whispering began. I saw Elias at the center of a circle near the bar, holding a champagne flute, laughing with a group of investors. Elena was by his side, looking radiant but slightly tired. Elias saw me. I watched the color drain from his face, replaced instantly by a mask of brotherly concern. He handed his drink to Elena and walked toward us, limping, my limp, with practiced precision. "Leo!" he exclaimed, loud enough for the nearby guests to hear. "I thought you were in Sedona. The doctors said you needed total isolation." He was good. He was painting me as the unstable brother before I could even speak. "The doctors were wrong, Elias," I said, my voice cold and steady. "I found a better cure for my exhaustion." I turned slightly to Sloan. "I don't believe you've met Sloan Vance." The name hit him like a physical blow. Elias's eyes flickered to her, then back to me, then to the floor. He remembered her. He remembered the woman who had turned his $3 million scam into a pile of ashes. "Sloan Vance," Elias stammered, his Leo persona cracking. "The, consultant?" "The partner," Sloan corrected, her voice a sharp blade. She didn't offer her hand. She simply looked him up and down as if he were a stain on the carpet. "Leo and I have been collaborating on something much larger than Thorne Dynamics." Elena approached then, her brow furrowed. She looked at me, then at Elias, then at Sloan. "Leo, who is this?" she asked, looking at me. "I'm Sloan," Sloan said, stepping forward and invading Elena's personal space. "And you must be the neurosurgeon. Interesting. I've always wondered what it's like to work on something as fragile as the human brain. Does it ever just snap under pressure?" Elena stepped back, unsettled. I beg your pardon?" "Sloan is a bit direct," I said, smiling at Elena, a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "She's helped me realize that I was thinking too small. With my company. With my life. With my relationships." I felt Elias's gaze burning into Sloan. I could see the gears turning. He was looking at her dress, her jewelry, the way she commanded the room. He didn't see a threat yet. He saw a bigger prize. He saw the woman who could make him more than just a twin, she could make him a god. For the next hour, Sloan and I moved through the room like a storm front. We ignored Elias, but we made sure he was always in earshot. "It's called Project Chimera," Sloan whispered loudly to a tech mogul, while Elias stood 3 feet away. "It's not just AI. It's a sovereign digital wealth fund. The initial seed is 200 million. But we're being very selective about the board." I saw Elias's ears perk up. 200 million. That was 50 times what he'd stolen from my offshore account. Later, in the VIP lounge, I accidentally left my tablet on the table while I went to the restroom. Sloan stayed behind, lighting a cigarette, the venue's no-smoking rule be damned. No one dared tell her no. Elias seized his moment. He slid into the seat I had vacated. "Sloan," he said, his voice dropping into that intimate, hypnotic register. "We started on the wrong foot. I'm the one who really runs the show at Thorne Dynamics. My brother, he has the ideas, but I have the spine." Sloan blew a cloud of smoke into his face. "Is that right? Because I did a background check on Leo Thorne before I signed the partnership. You have a brother, don't you, Elias? A bit of a parasite, from what I hear." Elias didn't flinch. He leaned in closer. "Elias is complicated. But the man you're standing with tonight? He's a shell. He's scared. He's clinging to you because he has nothing else. I, on the other hand, am looking for someone who can match my ambition." "I don't match ambition, Elias, or Leo, or whoever you're pretending to be tonight," Sloan said, leaning in so their noses almost touched. "I consume it. I'm moving $200 million into a blind trust on Friday. I need a signatory who isn't afraid to break a few laws. Your brother is too noble for what I have planned." Elias's eyes dilated. "I'm not noble." "Prove it," Sloan whispered. "Meet me at the foundry. Midnight tomorrow. Bring the authorization codes for the Thorne Dynamics main server. If you want to be part of Chimera, I need to know you have total control of your assets." "I'll be there," Elias said, his voice trembling with greed. As we left the gala, Elena caught me at the valet. Elias was busy talking to a group of reporters, basking in the glow of his success. Leo, wait! She grabbed my arm. Something is wrong. You're acting different. And that woman, she's dangerous, Leo. I can feel it. I looked at Elena. This was the woman who had slept with my brother in my bed and didn't know the difference, or didn't care to. You're right, Elena, I said softly. She is dangerous. But she's also honest. She told me exactly what she wanted the moment we met. And what did she want? Elena asked, her voice trembling. Everything, I said. Just like Elias. Elena froze. What did you say? Enjoy the penthouse, Elena. While it's still yours. I got into the car where Sloan was waiting. As we pulled away, I saw Elena standing under the street lamp, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. You were cold back there, Sloan said, looking out the window. I liked it. It's easy to be cold when you're frozen inside, I replied. Sloan turned to me. The streetlights flickered across her face, making her look like a ghost. Don't get poetic on me, Leo. We're 24 hours away from the finish line. Elias is going to bring those codes. He's going to think he's stealing me and the 200 million. Are the authorities ready? My parents, the board of directors, and the SEC will all be watching the live stream, I said. He's not just going to lose the money. He's going to confess to every fraud he's committed in the last 10 years just to impress you. And what about us? Sloan asked. It was the first time her voice sounded human. The contract ends at midnight, I said. Sloan leaned back, a shadow crossing her face. Right. The contract. The next night, the city was draped in a thick fog. The foundry was a derelict industrial building I'd purchased through a shell company months ago. It was a labyrinth of rusted iron and echoing silence. Inside, I was tucked away in a darkened control booth overlooking the main floor. Sloan stood in a circle of light under a single hanging bulb. She looked like a sacrifice, but I knew she was the priestess. The heavy steel door groaned open. Elias walked in. He wasn't limping anymore. He was walking with the swagger of a man who had already won. He held a silver flash drive in his hand. I have it, he called out, his voice echoing. The keys to the kingdom. Thorne Dynamics is ours, Sloan. I've rerouted the encryption. I can drain the company in 10 minutes. Sloan stepped into his space. And what about Leo? What about your brother? Elias laughed, and the sound was hideous. Leo is a ghost. By tomorrow morning, he'll be framed for the very embezzlement I'm committing right now. He'll be in a cell, and I'll be on a plane to Singapore with you. You'd do that to your own blood? Sloan asked, her voice dripping with mock admiration. For money? For me? I'd burn the world down for a woman like you, Elias said, reaching out to stroke her cheek. Leo never deserved any of it. The brains, the girls, the money. He was just a placeholder for me. I'm the real masterpiece. You really are a monster, Elias, Sloan whispered. I'm a winner, he corrected. Now give me the access to the Chimera Fund. Sloan stepped back and smiled. It was the smile of a shark. There is no Chimera Fund, Elias. But there is a very high-definition camera behind you. The lights in the foundry snapped on, blinding him. Elias spun around, his hand shielding his eyes from the sudden floodlights. His breath came in ragged gasps. What is this? He screamed, his voice cracking. Leo? Is this a joke? I stepped out of the control booth and onto the iron catwalk overlooking the floor. I looked down at him, my own face, twisted in a mask of cowardice. It's not a joke, Elias, I said, my voice echoing through the hollow ribs of the foundry. It's an audit. I hit a button on my remote. On the far wall of the foundry, a massive industrial projector flickered to life. The screen didn't show a movie. It showed a grid of faces. There were the 12 members of the Thorne Dynamics Board of Directors. There was our lead legal counsel. And in the center, looking pale and broken, were our parents. Mom? Dad? Elias whispered, his knees buckling. We heard everything, Elias. My father's voice boomed through the speakers. It was a voice of pure, distilled disappointment. We heard what you think of your brother. We heard about the embezzlement. We heard about the framing. No, Dad, it's a setup. Leo forced me to say those things. He's been drugging me. Elias scrambled towards Sloan, grabbing her arm. Tell them we're in love. Tell them about the fund. Sloan didn't move. She didn't flinch. She simply looked down at his hand on her silk sleeve with an expression of utter revulsion. There is no fund, Elias, she said softly. And I don't love you. I don't even particularly like looking at you. You're a Xerox of a man. A blurry, distorted copy of someone far more interesting. She reached into her clutch, pulled out a wet wipe, and slowly, deliberately, wiped the spot where he had touched her arm. Then she tossed the wipe onto his shoes. Leo, my mother sobbed from the screen. I'm so sorry. We didn't know. We thought we thought you two were finally working together. That was the problem, Mom, I said, looking directly into the camera. You always wanted us to be together. But you can't be together with a shadow. It either follows you or it tries to swallow you. Tonight the shadow is gone. Elias tried to run for the door, but two men in dark suits, Sloan's associates, stepped into the light, blocking his path. Where are you going, Elias? Sloan asked, walking toward him with the grace of a panther. The night is just beginning. You brought me the flash drive with the server codes, remember? You were so eager to hand them over. You can't use them, Elias hissed. Those are encrypted. You need my biometric signature. Sloan pulled a small, sleek laptop from her bag and set it on a rusted barrel. Actually, I don't. You see, while you were busy trying to consume my ambition at the gala, I was busy cloning your phone. Every keystroke, every password, every fingerprint scan you used to access Leo's life. I have it all. She began typing with terrifying speed. What are you doing? Elias shrieked. I'm returning the $4 million you stole from Leo's offshore account, she said, her eyes fixed on the screen. And then I'm taking the liberty of donating your entire personal crypto portfolio, the one you built using Thorne Dynamics' proprietary trade secrets, to a very specific charity. No! That's my life. That's $20 million. The charity is for victims of identity theft and corporate fraud, Sloan said, hitting the enter key with a final, satisfying click. Poetic, don't you think? Elias collapsed onto the concrete floor. He didn't look like a winner anymore. He looked like the hollow shell he had always been. I'll sue you, he whimpered. I'll tell everyone what you did. Tell them, I said, descending the stairs to stand over him. But remember, Elias, the board has your confession. The SEC has your logs. And our parents, they finally have their eyes open. You're not going to jail today. That's too easy. You're going to walk out of here with nothing. No name, no money, and no brother. You wanted to be me? Well, now you get to see what it's like to start from zero. Let's see if you have the spine you bragged about. I turned to the screens. The meeting is adjourned, I told the board. I'll see you at 9 a.m. for the restructuring. The screens went black. 30 minutes later, the foundry was empty, save for me and Sloan. Elias had been escorted out into the fog, given exactly $20 for a cab and the clothes on his back. The silence was heavy, filled with the smell of ozone and old iron. He's gone, I said, looking at the spot where he had collapsed. I thought I would feel a surge of triumph. Instead, I just felt light. Empty. He'll try to come back, Sloan said, packing her laptop. Men like that always do. But he won't get far. I blacklisted his name in every financial hub from here to Zurich. He's a ghost now. I turned to her. She looked tired for the first time. The Ice Queen mask was slipping. The contract, I said, reaching into my pocket. I pulled out a check I'd written earlier that day. $1 million. The fee, plus the damages, plus the premium for the performance. I held it out to her. Sloan looked at the check. She didn't take it. "You're overpaying," she said. "I think the damage you did to his ego was worth the bonus," I replied. Sloan stepped closer to me. The smell of her perfume, the jasmine and gunpowder, filled my senses. We were no longer under the lights. We were in the shadows of the foundry, where things were real. "And what about the other clause?" she asked, her voice a low vibration. "The one about falling for me?" My heart stopped. I told you I was frozen inside, Sloan. Ice melts, Leo. Especially when you put it under this much pressure. She reached out and took the check from my hand. But instead of putting it in her bag, she slowly tore it in half. Then in quarters. The pieces fluttered to the floor like snow. "Sloan, what are you doing? That's $1 million. I don't want your money, Leo. I already took $3 million from your brother's legal fees he owed me. I'm fine." She stepped into my space, her hand resting on my chest, right over my heart. "I want to know if the man who was surgical enough to hire me is the same man who was brave enough to stand in the rain and watch his life burn." I looked at her, the woman who had been my weapon, my shield, and for 2 weeks, my fake world. "I'm still standing," I whispered. "Good," she said. She pulled me down and kissed me. It wasn't a performance for a camera or a board of directors. It was fierce, hungry, and dangerously real. 6 months later. I stood in the penthouse, looking out at the city skyline. The windows were new. The furniture was different. The twin tax was a thing of the past. Elias had been spotted working at a warehouse in Jersey. He tried to call my parents once, but my father had changed his number. Elena had moved to Europe, unable to face the social fallout of being the woman who couldn't tell two brothers apart. The door opened behind me. Sloan walked in, wearing a trench coat, her hair damp from the rain. She threw her keys on the table, the keys I'd given her a month ago. "How was the hearing?" I asked, pouring her a glass of that 30-year-old whiskey. "Vicious," she said, a smirk playing on her lips. "I dismantled the hedge fund manager's prenup in under an hour. I think I made him cry. Typical Tuesday for you, then." She walked over to me, taking the glass and leaning against my shoulder. We looked out at the city together. "You know," she said, "Elias was right about one thing." I stiffened. "What's that?" "You were a placeholder, Leo. But not for him." She turned to me, her eyes like a frozen lake that had finally thawed. "You were a placeholder for the man you were supposed to become. The one who realized that blood isn't an excuse for betrayal, and that sometimes, the only way to find the light is to hire the smartest person in the dark." I put my arm around her. "Is that your professional opinion, Ms. Vance?" "No," she said, clinking her glass against mine. "That's my partner's opinion." I looked at our reflection in the glass. For the first time in my life, I didn't see a twin. I didn't see a shadow. I just saw myself. And for the first time, that was more than enough. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button so you don't miss out on new interesting stories.